Welcome to Gaming on a Brain Podcast, Season 2, Episode 1. As always, I'm Mark.
I'm Glenn.
And those keen viewers might have noticed that we actually have a third man today at the table. This is Jamie. We'd like to wish you welcome to the channel, Jamie.
Thank you, guys.
To the podcast. And those who were around for Season 1, you'll know that we actually had like basically a theme around a game every episode, didn't we, Glenn?
Yeah.
Season 2, we're going to be doing things a little bit differently, and what we're going to have is a theme in overall gaming, such as retro gaming, such as talking about like the ASRB and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We're basically going to be tackling different themes every month, and it's going to be fun. We're going to get straight into it after the introduction, so we'll see you guys in about 1 minute's time.
You've got gaming on the brain.
Ain't getting any prettier.
Glenn, we had quite an interesting conversation the other day about legacy gaming, retro gaming.
We did, yes.
And it went on for quite a bit. Hopefully it won't go on quite as long here, but you do have a few points to make about that. Why don't you start us off with that, mate?
So the meaning of retro. Well, we have come to know retro now, as far as classic gaming is concerned, is literally vintage, which I'll get to in a second about that word as well. Games from the past, like several generations ago. But the word retro, really what it means is it's modern goods, can be just about anything that are actually made to basically look and feel like items from the past. So in the case of video games, if it was made yesterday but was made to look like something from 30 years ago.
Which there's plenty of games like that, in fairness.
There is, and it's like, we like to apply it because we've used this term for absolutely decades now, for everything, but definitely games. It's when I use the wrong term, like vintage, like, I just used at the start of the conversation.
Yeah.
Obviously, vintage is actually to do with making wine, because it clues in the title, vineyards and all that. So I still like to use it sometimes just to sound like I know what I'm talking about, but maybe I don't really. So we'll try and avoid using it where possible. But retro games, as I know, is like, as we want to talk about them, is legacy. And I've also now legacy is sometimes a better term to use. So we know we're literally talking about stuff that was made 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Definitely games go that far back now. So we, to me, retro now means anything that was old.
Okay then. All right. So in that case, going with our bullet points here,
Aye.
what generation do we all consider as retro?
Well, I'll say now, I don't think we agree on this.
I hope we don't.
Don't know, but
Can I just touch on retro?
yeah, sure.
Just because you talk about retro gaming, and I think what you said, Glenn, is quite interesting, but retro means a lot of other things. So I like retro clothing. So
Yeah.
I'd buy
retro.
trainers. And what does retro do to me? Takes me back to when I was younger, or what I used to like to wear, and you'll see that things come back in fashion.
Yeah.
And I think retro gaming is in fashion. So it's
definitely
quite interesting.
I think more now than ever as well.
Can I just stop everyone as well before I go on? Can I just say, Jamie's not from round these parts, as you might be able to tell. He actually speaks proper England. We're like, us people here.
That's debatable.
That's just peons and us.
Sorry for I had to get out now. It wasn't my script notes. I meant to say it at the start, but I messed that up. Sorry, everyone.
No worries.
So what do you... I mean, Glenn, let's start.
My generation.
What's your generation that you consider retro?
Again, it's unofficial, so it's got to be careful. It's my thinking and my belief.
If anybody disagrees,
I can if I want, right? It's our podcast. Anything that's pretty much 20-year-old, and again, there's a little bit of movement in that, but if it's like 20-year-old now, you can... I think we've got something inbuilt in our brains, that's like, don't know if it's automatic and it's different for some people, but once something is 20 years ago, from 20 years ago, you're like, you look back and go, I wish I could do that again, or I could play that again, or watch it again, or film, or play, or wear them trainers again, if it's 20 years ago. So I don't know if it's just the way the human brain's made up. So for me, at the minute, I know I rambled on there to get to the point, but I like to, you know. And it's not exactly 20 years yet, it's more 18 to 19, but it's close enough. I'd consider, for me, PS3, 360, Nintendo Wii to be sort of on the cusp of retro now. Obviously, I know
you're talking a console that's 19 years old.
Yeah. I mean, I know you know, would definitely say PS2 and OG Xbox.
Don't be stealing mine.
No, I just want to be thunder. I'm not. That is definitely retro. Definitely retro. Absolutely. We're not going to argue on that. You know, it's definitely retro.
You look at the antiques world, right? They will basically say that something needs to be this age.
Yeah, but 100 years.
We don't have that in gaming.
No.
It's what you consume. Well, so you're right. What you think is retro is retro.
Well, it's, again, like quickly just touching on, because you've got a point to make, quickly touching on what I says about vintage. Some people have called games as new vintage because it's 20 years. Because vintage, some people say it as being, if it's not to do with wine, has been 50 years or less.
Right.
And again, well, there's no real strict order. But when you say antique's always been strictly 100. So we're not there yet with games, as far as I know. So we'll not be applying that term, although we might be around still to say that, possibly. I'd like to.
So I would love
some fashion. Anyway, what's your thoughts on what truly retro?
For me, it's got to be like Generation 6, so like PS2, GameCube, and the original Xbox.
Right, well, we're definitely
and Dreamcast as well.
I suppose GBA. Yeah,
I mean, look, not to forget the handhelds, but GBA as well. But it's like what I find as well, and I know we're going to talk about like collections a bit later on in the episode.
Luckily, choice and B as well, by the way.
Yeah, don't laugh at it, it's all some tools. But I find they're still at a reasonable price as well, and you can pick up, most of the stuff's at a reasonable price.
Generally speaking, I do agree with you on the whole, Mark, but we've had a conversation before where I think some of the, you know this, some of the Konami stuff, Squaresoft stuff and that now is getting expensive. Some of the homegrown Sony stuff, like the early God of War's not now. Yeah. I mean, when I say expensive, I'm still not talking hundreds, like
things like that.
But they are getting into higher end things, especially talking about mint condition or even sealed stuff. But you're generally right, though. I mean, if you want to build up a collection or have a starting point somewhere, PS2, OG Xbox, GameCube, not too bad.
Jamie, what about you, man? What do you?
I know that you actually buy and sell some games, right? And you'll know that a boxed game, mint condition, or just a cartridge vary massively.
Yeah.
But does that matter to the guy that wants to buy it, or the girl indeed that wants to buy that, because they just want to boot that back up?
And put that in. Some original hardware. Yeah.
I listened to your podcast before, and you had the Konami noise. We all know it, the Capcom noise, and you think, "I'm back," and that's what retro means to me.
Sound big up on an arcade, on like a
PC.
Again, I go back to some of the stuff you had on your first podcast, which I really enjoyed. By the way, you would hear a noise, maybe the actual. I believe one of the arcades you said that actually it was far too loud, but you would hear that noise of that machine.
Final Fight in the arcades was far too loud. You'd always hear
you could hear
accordion guys spinning around doing spinny kick in the background.
But it would draw you in. An arcade is different to your home console. You hear that, you see it visually, and it wants you to put that money in.
Yeah.
So
attract more.
When I go back to sort of the cost or the price of gaming, I have a collection myself. I say hands on the table.
Nice collection, yeah.
Probably more of a Nintendo man, although I have a bit of everything. I love the Dreamcast, but when you mention Konami is quite expensive, Turtles in Time is exceptionally expensive.
Tournament fighters not.
So some games are just incredibly expensive, but there are others that aren't. And, you can pick up a copy of Super Mario World for not a lot of money, really, if it's not boxed. So it's whether you want to, what I would think about retro is, do you want to play it or do you want to collect it?
Yeah.
I personally have a collection, but none are sealed. They were mine as a kid, and I like to play them.
So you've got nostalgia, though, there for those particular copies as well, though. Yeah. It's not just the game in general, it's that actual copy,
Yeah.
Like, if there's a little bit damage to the box, like a nick or a little pen mark, which you might have wrote on your kid, you put that there, and that's unique to you now. That single copy.
Cheat codes written in the back of the
I was going to say, you absolutely, Mark. You took that words out of my mouth on the back of my Game Boy cartridge. There they are. you know, the cheat codes or the level passes.
I was going to say, though, like, so...
But then you've got to take the Game Boy out of the game. Should have voted on the label.
That's a good one.
When we're saying about the actual, the collecting of them as well, like what you said there about, say, PS2 as one example, generally you can get a fairly cheap collection. OG, Xbox, definitely. But I think, like, for the, like I said about my feelings being sort of like 360 PS3 generation being the cusp of the retro gaming, in my head, you can start with really, I mean, you can go online, you go on eBay now and you probably pick up 20, 30 games, maybe 10 quid, 20 quid
easily.
tops. I mean, yeah, there'll be about 5 copies of FIFA in there, from FIFA 2005 to FIFA probably 2010 or something, you know, and you can, there will come a day, probably not, but I'd like to think it would, when FIFA 2006 is actually worth 50 quid, although probably not. But imagine if that was a thing. So, but
there might be, I mean, I used to love Tiger Woods games, you know. There was one on the PlayStation, I don't know if you guys ever played it, but...
I love Tiger Woods.
Even Justin Timberlake.
360 and that.
Justin Timberlake.
I know they went through a phase when they were doing that, with people who shouldn't have been in games, in that type of game. But I'll be honest with you, man, when I'm going on about like cheap, say, PS3 collections, 360 collections, imagine if you did collect FIFA or Tiger Woods and that's all.
You could probably have
the cheapest collection ever. Earliest stuff for the Mega Drive and the SNES and that. Even then, you can get a FIFA 95 for like probably 20 quid box and 15 quid box on the SNES.
Do you think it makes a difference, though, how you feel you play about it? Because I would say that some games on PlayStation 1, to a degree on N64, they were just verging into 3D.
Yeah.
So therefore, some of those games are not as playable as when you say the Xbox.
Do you mean like the early actual polygonal, polygonal, however you say it?
Yeah.
Polygonal.
Yeah, so I just think that there also is a point about when that crossover happened, which is what I see as a crossover personally. So you went from SNES, Mega Drive, then they went to 3D with the Saturn, and with the N64 and the PS1. But Ridge Racer's playable today.
Star Fox for me, that was the time.
Well, the thing is, you could start talking about stuff like Virtua Racer, the original ones, you know, Virtua Fighter 3 a little bit later. Well, not really, maybe
a little Dreamcast Virtua Fighter 3, Virtua Fighter 1, Saturn Arcade.
I mean, I know we're verging off a little bit here, but I've got to mention this. For me, though, I've always loved still like 2D. Although I respect early 3D, so PS1 stuff and even stuff like Star Fox for what it was, as being a pioneer of that type of generation and that type of, those type of graphics. But to me, like just looking at even Fan Fight or Street Fighter 2 World, Warrior, the original, it still looked fantastic, and that's the earliest stuff. But just it's like timeless, hand-drawn graphics, which is fantastic. It always will, you know.
I also think, though, when we first met and found out we had something in common, for the listeners, we went down a pub, and we just chatted. We just chatted like this, really, and we got onto arcades. That was the difference, though. I've listened to us in a podcast, so I keep boring on about that, but. You play Golden Axe, you play Street Fighter, and you got it on your home computer, and it felt the same, but you weren't going to play Daytona.
No.
You would want to sit there with 4 mates and play Daytona.
Well, I'm going to put in one thing, and don't you get worried. Sorry, I'm not going to get on. I'm going to just spend 30 seconds talking about Golden Axe.
And then podcast, please.
I'm going to prove, right, that this is definitely going to be a topic for another day, because it's... what I want to discuss on that game and series is something about how it changed gaming for me, from my life, basically. But we'll keep it for another time, because Golden Axe is a pioneer.
This is the fabled the Death of the Arcades episode.
Yeah, we'll get to, and that game has to be mentioned, because that just blew me away, and still does, because I'm easy pleased as well.
It won't be fabled for much longer. We'll actually do it.
We need to redo the top 10, by the way, because I disagree.
But I did want to touch on something, and that was because you actually did mention it earlier, and I wanted to get into it a bit more. It's about collecting in general. Let's talk about graded games for a second, because I'll not spend too long, because I criticise this a little bit personally, but I absolutely see where they're coming from with graded games. Personally, I think it can be seen as a way to make money for people, but the fact that the option is there and they are available is generally quite a good thing. But do you not think having graded games, though, sort of prices it out, like Neo Geo games for people,
Yeah.
Or some of the other obscure consoles like the 3DO and the Jaguar games. Basically, if the console or the computer's crap, right? Not the Neo Geo, obviously, but 3DO, CDI to lesser degree.
Yeah,
if that system was shite and didn't do well, the games are worth an absolute fortune now.
It's the run, isn't it?
But the thing is, those games, that is what you're getting in the box as it was still. So if it's mint and sealed, whatever, or it's in good condition but rare, then okay, you're paying that price. But when you're having a game that, say, for instance, the Mario 64 debacle, as I'll call it, when you had a game that would still be worth probably a few $100 sealed in mint condition, even though they're not that rare. At the top of the American version, not the more rare PAL version of Mario 64. But then you've got a copy that comes out and apparently it sells for $1 million. How did it give? What was Dr. Evil thinking? $1 million. It's been a long time. $1 million. Right? I couldn't remember. It's been a long time. So what's Austin Powers sound like? So $1 million, right, for a sealed N64 game. There's something.
Red stripe, we like to call it. If it's red stripe.
The red stripe edition. Something going on there, right? It's like, and I mean, that not only does that price that game out of everybody's wallet, because bear in mind, you'll have the guy who's got the one on for $1 million, and there's apparently it's proof it's sold for $1 million. So someone else is going, oh, well, I'll just put mine on for 100,000. I mean, it's a tenth of that. That's look, I'm not greedy. I'm asking for 100,000, but no one's going to pay that. So, do you not think, though, having graded games just it stops the entry point collectors ever getting in there?
Yeah.
You know,
I it's not for me. It's what. Well, I declare myself.
Well, I'll have to pop in a game because I keep doing this or not. But it's not for me either. But as I've said to you earlier, if I wanted a copy of a rare game, and that was the only version of only copy available on eBay, and it's probably a bit more than I want to pay really, but that's the only copy. When I want something, I need something. I lose it. Of course, I'd buy it, and I would treasure it because that's the only one. But I probably would have rather have not had it graded and slabbed forever.
My question to you was going to be: would you open it? But
not at all.
You probably don't have to now because we can all get on emulation.
Yeah,
exactly.
So we can all play something we used to love. So therefore, yes, you would keep it and grade it.
Yeah.
I'm not a big games grader person. I've got some nice stuff I could probably have graded, but I know I can never open it again. But things such as Pokemon cards, you're only really preserving it because it's a card. I'm
probably the scourge of the video game collectors community, really, because I said I am the type. I'll admit, right, hands up, right, I'm the type of guy who will collect a sealed game to keep it sealed. But if I can afford it, I will have an open copy as well to play.
Yeah.
And if I can't afford it, if I don't have access to a loose copy, cartridge or disc even's fine, does that be complete if I'm playing it, then obviously emulation is the way to go. Not that we're saying you should emulate. That's up to you, really.
Would you gamble on a game? So, I guess the classic example.
Fruit Machine on Spectrum.
Well, no, that was a good game. That was a good game. That along with Grand National. But so if you look at Mario All Stars collection for the Switch, everyone knew that was limited.
Yeah.
So that has already gone up in price. So in hindsight, would you have gambled and bought two copies, one to play and one to keep sealed?
Definitely. If it was something I wanted, bear in mind that would have still been with 40 quid, wouldn't it? So not too much, really. And I'll do that. If I can do that, obviously my habits now as far as collecting goes, I don't even buy modern games, and I haven't bought nothing since, like I said, pretty much the PS3 and 360 days. So it's just the way I work now. But if I was doing that and I wanted to preserve the game, like what you do with the Evercade and that, I'd be getting two copies. Yeah. But especially if it's cheap enough, I'm not trying to say, I could afford 80 quid or whatever, because I know people go on about prices of games, which I'm sure we'll have as its own topic for one day.
Very interesting.
But yeah, I mean, my mindset is if I could afford two copies at the time, want to play and use. But then I've got another bad habit. Sometimes I like to have two sealed copies. I'm sorry. So I've got to have 3 copies. I'm
a bit worried about the habits that are starting to come out here just on my first podcast.
Anyway, everyone, that's the end of the podcast. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Glenn graded games before we got through the other points. Yeah. But never mind. We'll swing it back anyway. Jamie, you never really give us an answer. What generation do you see it in as retro? So if you can
so for me,
a line,
for me, it's what I played as a kid, because I'm 48 years old. So unfortunately to the viewers, I'm
28.
He doesn't get to everyone.
But so
not when he's got beauty mode on the edit anyway.
I would quite like, I used to play ZX Spectrum, so Football Manager, stuff like that in my bedroom. The game takes 20 minutes to load.
Aye.
And then
it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Didn't you find that was part of the charm?
Yes.
When that game took 20 minutes and sometimes there was a 50-50 chance that you'd go out the room and come back to have your tea and walk on the dog, come back and it was
because
it hadn't worked.
At least it had the picture on.
That was meta though. I thought it was meta in itself because it said there's a chance it's not going to load, so that's a gamble in itself. Yeah. Or it's 2D table, which is even more of a gamble, especially if that's the only copy you have and you have to go back to the shop again.
Well, you were invested in playing it, weren't you? Because it takes you time to play it. But so I wouldn't class that as it's retro, but to me, retro gaming is a console.
Right. Okay.
And people will definitely disagree with that because PC gamers, but PC is a very good version of a console.
PC's the longest generation ever, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, because
in theory, yeah.
Yeah, and it is because it literally started. It's probably the first. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can label a PC as well, and some people will label a Spectrum a PC and that. But I know you mean literally like IBM or DOS machine.
We're talking about a proper MS-DOS based IBM PC here.
Yeah,
like
but you've seen how it's evolved over the years, going back to the very beginning before
don't get me
Windows
wrong.
and that.
I was a football manager kind of kid and I wanted to buy a PC, but it was too far out of reach.
Yeah.
I could buy a Nintendo for, I didn't, my mum would have bought it for me, but I'd get it for Christmas. That massive thing of opening the box and getting your game, all of that stuff. But I always wanted a PC, and I'd go into the Dixons, if anyone really knows what that was.
With a keyboard. And
I'd think, wow.
Rolling out your eyes.
Yeah, I thought, I'd love one of those because it did everything. But to me, retro's a console, just to me personally. And for me, it started with Nintendo, probably...
8-bit,
Yeah, so 8-bit for me.
Yeah.
And I would then say, Master System.
Yeah.
I thought Master System brought a bit more pizzazz to it.
Right.
Sega versus Nintendo is probably a completely different episode.
What would you consider as being your sort of like I say your sort of most recent generation, like you'd say was retro as well? Would you, like I says, I know people don't generally would agree with what I've said, Dreamcast definitely, I mean personally, because if that Dreamcast again, I know you want to answer Jamie, but I won't make have a gobshite. Dreamcast is the epitome, along with the Saturn, those two consoles for me, the epitome of a retro gaming console. The Saturn definitely because of the 2D element, being a great 2D console, and so many 2D beauties on there. The Dreamcast because people call it a failure, and I suppose it is really, but it's a success. Does it make this is going to make no sense? But I consider it a successful failure.
It's
only a failure because it didn't print money.
Aye,
but it was a success in the fact
that it's a beautiful little console as well. I just love that little shape as well, man.
It was again one of those absolute classics.
I could play games on it.
I could play Virtua Tennis on it.
Yeah,
I could play Crazy Taxi on it.
Yeah,
Jet Set Radio. Some of these were in arcades and it almost felt perfect. So to me, it definitely wasn't a failure. And some of the magazines back in that time, like Famagusta and stuff, actually really rated that system. I used to go into a shop where I live. I know you guys spoke about stuff here. You'd go in there and I would buy import. My first PSP was an import.
Right. Mine was American, or for me. It's got Twisted Metal Head on, didn't it?
Yeah.
Copies for both of us, I think.
Yeah. Ridge Racer blew me away when I got a PSP and thought, God, I'm playing a PlayStation in my hand.
Yeah,
I know.
And it was an
impressive little machine as well. I really love that PSP.
Yeah, but back to your question though, Mark, is for me, I would say, 360, anything below that, PlayStation 2. Now, I think you've got people who are probably 25 and above.
Yeah,
that would have been their entry into gaming.
And that's what I'm saying. If they're young,
definitely.
If they were very young, like under 10, maybe 6-year-old and that stuff, they'll get. I think they'll get nostalgia maybe then. So a guy might see a PSP for like 20 quid over in the shop, and it's got a game in already, and it's a little bit battered, and he's like, I think I love that. He's 25. He's got a kid, who's maybe just been born, probably married. I know I'm being a bit specific. It's not me. Not doing me. And he's bought that because he feels nostalgia for that. So that's what I'm saying about that to me would be retro because that's your starting with, your entry.
So I think the reason why I say like PS2 generation is because it's the last generation where you could put a game in the console and just make it play. You didn't have to update it. You didn't have to do all sorts of microtransactions. And that to me all still feels like this generation.
But Mark, that's why I've lost interest in these new. And I'll be serious as well now. But this is why I just don't really have much interest in definitely the last 2 generations. Maybe in 3 really. So. To some degree, it's just I cannot. I know we'll probably touch on this probably in a further episode, but it's just moved away completely from what I loved about the hobby in the first place. And still love. I mean, like I said, it's getting harder and harder to get, especially sealed, but good condition classic games like TurboGrafx or NES or Mega Drive and that even. But there's just something nice about holding something tangible in your hand with a full colour manual.
Just be careful not to hold it too firmly.
I think you've touched on something there, which is probably another episode if people would like to do it, is online gaming as modern now.
Yeah.
I would play, because I've moved up to Sunderland, I would play my friends in the south.
Yeah.
Just socially. So I'd go into a squad and I'd play Call of Duty. I'd quite like Call of Duty. I'm not that great at it.
All right.
But
it's got long.
But it's a social element.
Yeah.
So. And when we were all younger, you mentioned sensible soccer, but you don't like to play it on your own.
Yeah.
But you would if some mates come round. So
sitting on your bed,
retro gaming has a social element to it too, because it's a disc. It's not online.
Well, it's split screen games like the times you had
GoldenEye,
Twisted Metal 2. Just having a Mortal Kombat 2 and the Mega Drive and stuff. Not man, the days we are where I'd be dead leg
in tears.
Winner stays on.
But then the wrestling because you wouldn't let us play as the bosses and stuff like that. Or Mortal Kombat Trilogy on the PlayStation 1 now. And that to me now is. And I think again, I'm really going off a tangent, but seeing the way modern gaming now is getting a lot more regulated. I was say relegated for some reason, but it can be relegated as well. Regulated and serious because of all the health and safety and online concerns that now. And you're like, well, back in the day, you could just chuck your cartridge in or your disc on your PS1 and have a bit of fun.
Some like parents and stuff. My daughter's a gamer, but everyone has the view now that kids are in their bedroom playing computers. I know it's a totally different subject, right? But they're not. They have almost a social life from it. You can earn money from that. It's a completely different world, and if you're not willing to understand it, so it's a virtual social life. But gaming for me with my mates was doing exactly this: couple of beers,
side by side,
and we'd be in my bedroom playing computer, and so I wonder if retro gaming does still give you that social element. Even when you went to the arcade, you wouldn't go on your own.
No, but Glenn would.
Oh, yeah. If I want to play Golden Axe by myself, but remember people Golden Axe, people queuing up, crack down, and that was a great with the 2-player, on the split screen. But it's just like watching people play Street Fighter 2 back in the day in the arcade,
they did it,
and having people put your 10 minutes on to stay on and that, and you've got a queue of people because there's that many people who want to play that machine. When Mortal Kombat 2 came out, the prototypes, even the early boards and cabinets came in the arcades. And
just as a question, what was your character on Street Fighter 2?
Do you know what it is? I'm not very good.
You're not like you.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you saw someone playing...
Get rid of the rest of the characters.
If you saw someone that was really good with Guile, you would sit and watch to see how the hell he did it.
Yeah.
Do you know what it is? I prefer to play as... I'm going to be awkward and call him Vega. He was awkward. His name in the US version, but some people would say Vega's actually Bison, if you're talking the Japanese version. But I like Vega on Champions Edition.
Vegan,
right? That's another topic for another day. Just because he looked cool, and being able to jump off the fences and that and everything. But I was more of a Mortal Kombat person myself, though.
Chung Lee could do that, to be
fair. Yeah. And a spinning bird kick was tremendous.
Jesus.
Jeez. Just thinking, I mean, it's making us a bit tingly down in my loins talking about all these older consoles and computers. And Chun-Li's thighs and Blazer's legs. Did you mention them?
We have now.
I've got to say, Jamie, what was your first console, computer, whatever you had?
So, my first kind of console would probably have been, well, the one I remember the most would be my SNES.
Right. But what was the first one you ever owned, though? Like, you actually had your console, your computer?
So, my first computer was ZX81.
Right. Yes.
So, and it had the extra RAM in the back.
Games machine there.
And I was absolutely jealous because people that had a 48, so ZX48.
Yeah.
That would play more games than me. We touched on Bruce Lee the other day. So I then upgraded to that. And I also had a BBC Master.
That had some good games.
I love the BBC. Like,
I've seen there's the ZX81. I noticed that it uses a lot of like keyboard characters for, you know, if you're playing like a Space Invaders rip-off, it'll be like O's and X's and that on the screen instead of like actual graphics.
You know what I miss sometimes?
The BBC's a good machine, though.
Do you remember you used to have like story games, you know, and you used to play them at school?
Like a text story game.
Like Granny's Garden. That was the one at school on the BBC.
Which, do you pick to go left? Do you pick to go right?
They were hard as nails.
Yeah, they was.
And they're like, it was all maths questions. And you're like, I'm playing a great game here. I'm allowed to play a game at school. It's like, they're really teaching you arithmetic by giving you difficult questions where the granny would come on the script, it was a witch, and she had a nose like out here and every other
Didn't they upgrade him to something like Nimbus?
That was right.
That was the 486 PC. It was a Nimbus, RM Nimbus.
Yeah. Well, and that was supposed to set me up for my future.
Can you so your ZX81, don't worry, I'm going to get to you with this question as well, Glenn. Your ZX81 was your first, but what was your favourite? Pick anything that you ever wanted.
It's going to sound really bad because I'm a Nintendo man, but probably my Dreamcast. For me, it was the Dreamcast. You know, Soul Calibur blew me away.
Yeah.
Virtual Tennis, I loved.
Again, all games that had enhancements of the arcade.
Yeah.
Good kick.
Well, they had. The thing is, the difference is Soul Calibur had a story mode, so it wasn't just a fighting game. Mm-hmm. It was a story mode.
Yeah.
Recently released on Switch 2, by the way.
Yes, it's stuff on.
You know, and then there was those other games. You know that it just
Taxi with the crazy box and all that.
Yeah, and the Jet Set Radio was a hell of a game. So
I've played that for ages. It was the only game I had for Dreamcast when I first got it. Yeah. And I wouldn't usually play a game like that, Jamie, but I tell you what, I really got into that. Yeah, so I didn't finish it though.
No, I didn't finish it. I must have been. I did finish Virtual Tennis. So you got Master and who was the other guys? There was two guys at the end, but but it had like some mini games in it as I played along.
Yeah.
And obviously Shenmue.
It was the button practice and stuff and all.
Shenmue at the time blew me away.
Well, it was the first, basically,
open world as well.
Yeah, so going against everything that's in my loins, it's Dreamcast.
Glenn,
no, that's good.
Same question to you, mate. I hope you're going to ask me after.
Wait there. So what my first one was my favourite?
Well, I know your first. Our first ever one was the VIC-20.
It wasn't. It wasn't.
Oh,
no.
That's the first one.
Controversial.
Oh, see, no, you were very young. See, back when you were like one, you were there. Oh, that's maybe before you were around. So we had the Pong button ball with the. We had that. Then
Pong machines don't count.
No, I think they should.
They shouldn't.
The fact you play tennis and then got a VCS, give you an extra paddle. That really isn't a game.
You have to stick it over the telly.
That was back in the map. No, well, if we did, I'd go upside down. Or my dad didn't know how to figure to put them on. I definitely had the Atari 2600 because I very specifically playing their version of Space Invaders, which with all the variations, excellent. So again, you may have not been born at that time.
Don't remember that.
But the first computer that we did share. It's a VIC-20. Yeah. And do you not even know? I think it's a crate machine. It had some really good... it's called a Mock. It's their version of Berserk. And it's a much simplified version of a classic arcade game.
What system was Crackdown on? Because when you mentioned Crackdown, I'm thinking Xbox 360.
No.
Not that Crackdown.
Crackdown was originally a Sega arcade game from 1989. Then it's a great game.
I listened to the episode and I was a bit lost.
It looks like...
I thought we were talking about an Xbox 360.
There's a Mega Drive version. There's multiple computer versions. That's one of my favourite games and all. But so we got the VIC-20 and we've got I remember my Uncle Neil getting, you would be very, very young. But
I remember the Commodore 64 being in Nana's and getting
we've got that would be a few years later and we upgraded from the VIC-20 to the Commodore 64. But the VIC, we've got a tape, we've got just a single tape with about 40 games on or something.
Yeah.
Just handwritten on the tape, which went through all of them. And again, some of them just didn't load, obviously.
Was that from a friend or did you buy that from a shop? I know we've spoke about this where you can get collections.
Do you know what it is? It just appeared.
No idea.
The VIC-20 just appeared one day. Somebody, somebody in a pub sort of went, "Here, mate," to me dad. Do you want a VIC-20? And he gave me
was I down there?
Was it Jimmy?
It might make you fun.
Might be my dad.
Well, we bought this VIC-20 off your dad, apparently. Had great fun, but then we upgraded the Commodore. And I know I'm not going to go through all my history of my consoles. I promise I'll end our computers. I will promise to stop the Commodore. But a game that blew me away on the 664 was their version of Spy Hunter, because I loved the arcade game, and the Commodore version was basically better because it was easier. The arcade game was solid.
Do you remember a game called, was it Eliminate or something?
Yeah,
That's one.
Eliminate.
Is that where you were driving in the 3D?
That was a hell of a game.
It's the music, wasn't it?
Hell of a game.
Fantastic. Houston, so is it? I know it's Joe and Tell who did the music on that. It's a great game. We had that on Commodore.
I remember it.
It was good.
Yeah. Favourite console or computer?
Favourite console and computer of all time. Let's think for a second there, because there's been a few. So it's not the Vic or the Commodore, unfortunately. It's probably going to be the... Can I have two?
No. Come on, he pushed me on this.
Sorry. Oh, Christ.
You've got 3 seconds.
The PS1.
Ooh.
It was out of the PS1 or the Mega Drive, because I've got equal love for both and
That's
equal
so
great memories for both of these formats, consoles, because I've got games I loved on both, like Street Race Golden Axe on Mega Drive and Twisted Metal on the PS1 and that, you know. So, but I'll go with the PlayStation because obviously my love for TM, I mean, I've since sold everything, so that's sad. Went from the PS1 to obviously like PS3 before it finally fizzled out for me. So it's stretched long, where the Mega Drive, those two series I love, pretty much never really moved on. I mean, Golden Axe Duel came out for the Saturn and stuff, but didn't really put the time for that. So
it's interesting to me, though, because I listen to your podcasts, and if I had never met you, I would 100% say you would say Mega Drive.
Mega Drive.
Because you had a great, the pair of you had great detail on Golden Axe, Streets of Rage, Sunset Riders. You know, there was, and you knew in detail the differences between the games, and I would have put my mortgage on that. So, but it's nice to be surprised.
No. The reason, like I said, the reason big really is
because I still play them all now.
Yeah, it's only just because I didn't. I tell you what it is as well, and I love the Saturn now. For anyone, I've got a Saturn. I've got one great game for it. It's called Rise 2 Resurrection, the ultimate mobile fighting game. We'll do a podcast on it someday. I bought a Saturn like recently, like in the last few years, and I've played the odd few games here and there. Like I do like some of their 2D fighting games, but I never had the Saturn back in the day. I did have a Mega CD. We like that. We had Sulphys and that when the.
Well, they weren't easy to get hold of those.
No, and the different.
I used to add one as well, separately.
Wow.
So I did get one of them, and we had fun on that Fan Fight CD. Still fantastic, you know. But once the PS1 came out, and that really blew, like that early 3D at that time, Destruction Derby, I mean,
that's great.
I was like, bloody hell, look, it's real. It's like a real driving game. So
Metal Gear Solid, I mean, just voice acting, storytelling.
It's just filming in a game,
back
you know.
in the day.
So I mean, and plus the legs that the PS1's got, you know, I don't mean it hasn't got physical legs. I think a fold-out bit.
Not that I'm aware of.
It's just so iconic. And it's amazing as well, because I mean, I think with the history of the PS1 now, that I didn't know at the time or care, but when you go back and realise that like Nintendo would originally been the Nintendo PlayStation, and there's prototypes existing out of that.
Yeah.
And what happened instead was Nintendo obviously ended up working with Philips to instead create the CDI, and you think, Christ, if it went a different way, the PS1 would have never existed. the brand wouldn't have existed.
You know, although interestingly enough, they didn't launch those games.
Yeah.
So Metal Gear Solid, you guys have discussed it before. That is not the first Metal Gear Solid.
That's true, right?
Yeah.
But to me, it launched Metal Gear Solid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I would say the same with Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 7, if you're a role-play gamer or not, you knew about that game.
Only from 7, and some people...
Yes.
Well, you definitely know this. I'll just quickly touch on that series, but I know you'll obviously know this. Obviously, the naming convention of the early episodes for the SNES and that, and I think mainly the SNES, you'll be answered better, where they've got, I believe it's Final Fantasy 3 over here, but it's actually 5 in Japan or something, where they've literally messed with the timeline just by changing the numbers on the front of the box and say, and about... So, which game is it in the series anymore? Because some didn't get released in
funny enough,
territories.
Interesting subject in itself, I think, that sometimes, I mean, I think everyone would know that Super Mario Brothers 2 was not actually Super Mario.
And there is a Super... Well, Jamie, the great thing is, and again, we actually had a SNES roughly about the same time as the Mega Drive, but I just had more...
The Lost Levels.
Investment, and then we know that... and it wasn't until I got the... Super Mario All-Stars, which I spent a load of time because that was a really good value pack. Even without the Super Mario World 2 coming out later on a later pack. And it was then, it comes with a bonus Super Mario the Lost Levels, and I'm like, what's this like? And I said, that's the real Super Mario Brothers 2. I was like,
But they did it for the American market, didn't they? That they just felt it was more, and I think you guys have touched on.
They said Lost Levels was too hard for the American market. That was one of the reasons that they didn't bring it out.
And I think you touched on some Zelda ones in your earlier episodes, exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Although Konami do a brilliant version of Zelda with they did Mish's Cap for the Game Boy. They did the same thing with Oracle of Seasons and Ages.
Was that Konami, was it?
No, sorry,
Capcom, wasn't it?
Yeah. Thank you. No, yeah, definitely.
Yes.
So,
no.
How they were given the license,
I know that I have seen that where you have got Capcom titles on there, but that wasn't good. I think it's in different territories. Sometimes the different territories get different license, don't they? So you'll see interesting production, on some.
Come on, about
This might shock you, but it's got to be the 360. And the reason why I say that is just because it was the time when I was making enough money to just go out and buy the games myself and stuff. I've never had more fun than when I had like HD television, Condemned, Ridge Racer 6. Those games at the start of that generation blew me away. Tekken, I wasn't bought. I love Tekken on the PlayStation.
Yeah, this is where we diverged a bit, didn't we?
360. Amazing.
I was like placed. I still like it. I never we never became opposition on it because you owned the Xbox side of it and I owned the PlayStation. But we had a good sort of.
Don't get us wrong. I'm not really a Microsoft fan anymore at all because of the way they've handled this generation. I think they're going multi-plat, but I like the fact that they're going multi-plat. But I've got a PlayStation. I don't have an Xbox, but I've got a PC that runs.
It's interesting because I was always PlayStation, but. Then I went to Xbox, and today I still have an Xbox. I've just looked at the new handheld Xbox,
ROG Ally X,
and it also runs Steam.
Right.
So I can use my Steam games on it. But so my point was that I actually wasn't that I didn't want to play PlayStation anymore because I do. It was the fact that my friends had gone to Xbox and there wasn't crossplay.
This is what I don't get, and this is probably one for a current state of games, which I might hit in another future episode. But right now, just to summarise this quickly, right? Sony, in my personal opinion, has had the weakest generation they've ever had, even though it's a PS3.
I've heard it.
However, I own a PS5 because it's just the easiest way to play their exclusives and the worth playing, right? Mm-hmm. Microsoft have give up on consoles altogether, in my opinion. And I think the next Microsoft console will play Steam games as well.
Yeah.
Right? If you'll play PC games, okay? Yeah. That's the way I think it's going.
Where's the individual?
However, people are leaving Sony to go to Microsoft. And I don't understand.
Oh, and also Microsoft are buying companies.
Microsoft are buying
companies. I don't have a PlayStation, so I don't know what the PlayStation store's like, but the Xbox store, there's more games on there than I could ever play in my life.
Do you know what it is?
Brought a lot of people in as well.
There's a feature, right? And maybe I'm unique in this, I don't know, but there's something that I miss that I loved about older games. And when I say older, I'm still only going back as far as, say, PS3, maybe 360, definitely PS2 and OG Xbox and that. But I actually liked having, say I had the game on the PS2 and I've maybe got the game on Xbox as well, or Super Nintendo and Mega Drive, and there'd be two totally different different versions. Like I said, what you mentioned a great game again earlier, like Konami Sunset Riders and having the SNES version, having the Mega Drive version, having two different experiences. Konami were great at that, obviously, having, say, two different versions of two different Turtles beat 'em ups and two different versions of Turtles tournament fights and things. And I miss that, so that's what I miss. I don't like about modern.
No, give you a reason to own both the current consoles, didn't it? Where now, if you've got an Xbox or a PlayStation, Sony are opening up to putting their exclusives on other platforms like PC and possibly Xbox by the looks of it. But you don't need to own both.
Well,
you can get away with like a Switch too,
That's why I have a Steam Deck,
and a PC.
Because PlayStation games will eventually go to Steam. Like Spider-Man, loved Spider-Man. Ratchet and Clank, great games.
Laptop.
So I can have Steam and an Xbox, and it might come out a bit later. But I think I'm disappointed in that although you touched on it there, Glenn, where they made different games, I could still buy the game.
Yeah.
And locking games down, making me buy a console, it's not great.
I get it. Especially for Sony and Nintendo, 100% Nintendo, right? Their IP should stay forever Nintendo, in my opinion, okay? It should always be the second console you've got.
Yes.
But Sony and Microsoft, I just don't see much point anymore in them holding on to their own exclusives because they're both not great, in my opinion, anymore. I don't like the practices, the way that they do things.
Do you not think social media might be a part as well of mine?
Social media is a part of everything. Let's not get
it is. We'll not spend just too much time on that, but it's creating. I mean, there's always been a bit of friendly rivalry. I mean, back in the Super Nintendo and Sega days, pardon me, and it was great to some degree. I mean, I never actually saw a full-on fist fight in the schoolyard, not over things like that.
We could have a conquer fight over that.
Interesting enough.
But further.
Do you think, though, this is it's a bit of a subject, really, that Nintendo was Nintendo and still is, so I think you're absolutely right there. Like Nintendo was family friendly, and I own a Switch and a Switch 2 because they're completely different games.
Yeah.
But then Sega invaded the market, and they came to us with, look how hip we are, and without being sexist to people, if you look back, this is not my view, but they made it sexy for young guys to go and buy
It was
Sega.
the Attitude Machine, wasn't it?
It was Attitude Era.
Blast processing, man. That's what it was. Blast processing. I love that term.
Actually, when I look back, I think that Xbox did the same thing against PlayStation.
Tried, yeah.
Yeah, it's not as obvious.
Not as edgy.
But they did. But no, not quite as edgy. And there's a really great documentary on Sega.
It was the Xbox One generation that killed it for Microsoft because they were on a roll. The original Xbox, fantastic machine. Yeah, it didn't get the sales that it could have.
No.
The 360, that was it. That was when it happened. But then the Xbox One screwed it all up.
What controller do you prefer? This is really
I loved the Duke. It was amazing. The original Duke, the big boy.
Yeah.
I've got the S.
My hands are tiny.
Xbox.
I've got like little girl hands, but I could hold the Duke.
I bought an Xbox OG. I keep on OG, but just so I know it's not the Xbox One. I bought one about 4 years ago, maybe, and I'd never bought back in the day because obviously, like I said, there was more PlayStation than PS2. I haven't got one. And I was absolutely blown away by the quality of the games compared to PS2. Now, again, I mean, the PS2 was my go-to console, but after really putting some time into an Xbox, I got a chip one. I don't know if you remember, sort of play some import games of buying Japanese games. I mean, they actually exist. And I was like, this is really good. It's like some of the stuff, the later, like 2004, 2005, OG stuff was like very early 360 stuff. I was like, quality of graphics stuff. And then I'd have to go back to what I've just mentioned about like in two versions. I'd have the same game on the PS2, which had often been developed by somebody else as well. And the two games would be like chalk and cheese.
When a developer put the time into the Xbox version, it really made a big difference. Which I would like to get into next. But first, should we all take a quick break?
Yeah, why not?
When we come back, I want to talk about how developers are now pushing the back catalogue of games and stuff like that. So we'll see you guys in a minute. Quick interruption, guys, and don't worry, it's only about 45 seconds, which incidentally is about the same amount of time it takes for us to embarrass ourselves in a boss fight. Did you know Gaming on a Brain isn't just a podcast? We're on YouTube as well. Do you want to watch playthroughs? Because we've got them, with and without commentary. Perfect for the kind of person who likes to watch other people press their buttons. How about some Let's Players? I mean, that's just us laughing, dying repeatedly and pretending it was all part of the plan. Our head-to-head series can get very competitive and very heated, and that's where the friendships go to die. But if lists are your thing, then our hashtag 5 series has you covered. Think of it like some snack-sized reviews but without the calories. We're working hard at Gaming on the Brain to bring you as much fun, engaging content as possible, and all we ask in return is a review, a like, a sub, or a cheeky comment just telling us how rubbish we are, and we probably will respond as well with some equally bad banter. Now let's get you back to the podcast. Hope you enjoy the rest of the show. So we're back. So the next thing I would like to talk about, guys, more than anything, with the rise in retro, we'll use the term retro just because it's the most, coined term.
Yeah.
With the rise of retro, especially over the last, I would have said, 10 years, maybe? Would you say that's about fair?
Definitely at least that.
Yeah.
Definitely at least that, yeah.
What I've noticed is more than ever now, developers pushing their back catalogues much harder than usual. And I'm talking about, Capcom with, the Mega Man Legacy collections.
Definitely, yeah.
Capcom Arcade Fighting Stadiums. Yeah. Konami are getting it out there with the Castlevania collections, Radius collections.
Contra.
Yeah, Contra, everything. So it's, you're seeing even likes of, Hamster and that, doing the arcade collections and stuff on the PlayStation and everything,
Would you class a remake
Sorry?
Would you class it a remake? So Oblivion's a remake. You said 360 was one.
Yeah, so 360, yeah.
So they're coming out with the remakes. Gears of War is coming out pretty quickly.
Reloaded, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not retro, but is it retro?
So I don't class Gears of War 1 as retro yet.
No.
However,
I think if they're coming out too quickly after the original games, you're getting that film syndrome that's going on now.
That's like Last of Us and that way.
That's a perfect example.
It's like a reloaded version.
Again, me being a cynic, I start to think, well, really? Do you need to make them that soon?
It's because they're just doing it for the new generation of console, aren't they?
Yeah.
However, I think like Gears of War Reloaded, for example, is a good reason to do it because Sony's now getting it. Same with Halo, which will come as well. They'll do a Master Chief Collection Reloaded or something like that.
Yeah.
So I get that. It's fair enough. I mean, look, there's loads of reasons for not having some of these remasters and stuff. A lot of them were rather pointless.
Yeah.
However, what I mean is like, the proper like collections and stuff like that.
The original games,
And look at like Sega as well, where they've recently brought back Streets of Rage 4. Double Dragon Gaiden, all these Turtle Shredder's Revenge.
But isn't that different though because they're still completely brand new games based on all
these are true retro games.
As opposed to having like a Capcom collection that contains like 10 or 20 classic Capcom games. It's a separate thing to some degree, isn't it?
It is, but at the same time, it's developers now bringing back the stuff that we used to love.
Took the words out of my mouth. Did they make Streets of Rage 4? For someone like you, Glenn, really, because you absolutely love a side-scrolling fighting game.
Yeah. And
what they've done is they've made a new game, but you can get excited about it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, the thing is, with what you're saying as well, though, and again, sort of like to generalise a little bit, so I think there's enough room to have all of these games, so we can have packs with, say, all of the classic Turtle games on, including Fall the Foot Clan on the Game Boy and that, which are the original games, or as close as you can get, if there's any emulation issues. And you can have that, because often they release them as a physical item as well, which I think is great. And you obviously can have brand new games. I mean, there's some coming, there's a Golden Axe game and a Street 2 is coming, if I'm right, which are completely brand new games based on old IPs. So I think, to generalise what you're saying a little bit, there's that many of us now anyway, you can pick and choose, and there's room for all of this.
So the way I look at it, right, I think back to like the PS2 and that you had Midway's Arcade Greatest Hits
on PS1 with their
Title Legends, right? Yeah. So you had Sega Ages, right? So you had some packs, a few packs here and there, right? Then you go forward to like the 360 generation, Gen 7 and that, right? And suddenly you're starting to get like the Sega Vintage.
You have the arcade,
like
360 arcade.
Yeah, 360 arcade and stuff, right? So progressively, since I think like the PS2 era more than anything, we've started to get more and more and more of these things coming through. And for someone like me who loves the old style games, it's like it's a blessing,
I like them, and I hope they do keep on coming. And I mean, and I hope they're for the right reasons. But to be fair, even if they weren't, I mean, it's better to have them than not. And to be honest with you, looking at again, like the Castlevania collection, Turtles collection, I keep mentioning at least one of them. At least they're not just like, let's just chuck 10 or 20 games onto a disc and call it a day, or the download quota. At least they try and pad it out with a little bit. Now, me personally, I know it's me because I'm easily pleased with stuff, and some people won't like this or won't care for it. I actually love to be able to get a pack. I mean, they did it as a great example. Actually, was one which you wouldn't think to mention when Twisted Metal Head On came out in 2005.
Yeah.
Only 3 years later, in 2008, they released a special version for the PS2. In and of itself, nothing too special, because it's still Twisted Metal Head On, but it had unreleased assets, including a partially made game and some interviews and stuff for an unreleased Twisted Metal Black 2 that was on that disc. So that's not far off.
I think that's good. You're getting some bonus content.
So as well, even and the earliest examples of it, to be honest with you, which is you close to mentioning, was on the PS1 when you had like the Namco Museum collections.
Yeah.
You'd only get 6 games, but I mean at that time, it was probably quite fair. It was only 10 years after the original. 10, 12, 14 years, maybe after the original games themselves. But you'd never just get a disc with 6 games on. I mean, in Namco Museum 3 was a great example. They had a full 3D museum, and you didn't just go, let's look at that interview. Yeah. Let's look at an arcade flyer. Let's look at a cabinet there. You actually, in real time, you'd move through the museum, PS1 graphics, obviously, and you'd see Pac-Man heads and characters from the other games, and you'd look at a 3D rendition of the cab. and the PCBs. And some people won't be interested in that at all, but like for me personally, I love that type of filler, you know.
I think I think they're good. So my personal opinion is yes, definitely. Because we spoke at the start of the very podcast, you know, what's retro? How much money does it cost? We touched on slabbing. We touched on lots of things here. But if you want to do a bit of replay, but you still want to own it, you can buy that. And, you know, I bought recently the Turtles one you mentioned.
Yeah, with
Cowabunga collection.
Yeah,
I think the name.
Yeah, I also bought Advance Wars.
Yes.
I really like Advance Wars. Brilliant game.
It's got long legs and all that series.
What I would say is what you both touched on was bonus content.
Yeah.
Now, you unlock artwork and different things from those games. They haven't, I think years ago, they would just chuck them on a disc.
Yeah.
But I don't think they do that anymore. And that's why I think they've got their place.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I say, I'd rather be done for the right reason. I mean, there'll be some publishers and developers out there who probably just go, no, let's just slap them on disc. But even then, I'm not going to say I dislike that completely, because at least they're still getting these old titles out there for people who might not have played them. If it's a download code and it's got 6 old Midway games on, and that's all. And, you know, and you've downloaded that for like $5 or £3 or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not really going to twist, am I? If I've got 6 like Defender and maybe... or maybe Stargate, you know, and maybe Robotron to play and a couple of others. No one's going to... It just keeps them in the limelight for people.
This is nothing new, because we were all kids and we played Commodore 64 Spectrum, and you'd go to your local store and US Gold would give you a pack with 5 games on.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, when you look at it, it's been done before.
Difference was, though, they were current generation.
Yeah, they were conversions at the time, and I think, you know... the US Gold's legendary in tone, right? Tay-Tech, Sega, and we're not going to sit about Tay-Tech. But I know what Mark's saying there, though. I mean, those compilations were like, the games might be a year old, 2 years old, so it might be 6 games.
You generally get a few budget games mixed in with a couple of more high-profile games, wouldn't you?
To diverge a little bit what you're saying, to come in the middle of what you've just said, Elite, right? This is interesting, you might not know this. Elite, obviously... Elite Commando made Commando Corey Warriors, some classic games as well. Elite, I think it's Elite still good, I'll be honest. They would release compilations of current games, so games that have been 6 months to a year old. What Elite would do is that also often you get a box, that be, I can't remember the names of what they used to call a compilation, Mega Hits 1, whatever, and you pick up the box, you go, 6 games. I've never seen that game before. And it'd be a game called Duet, and you'd gone, fuck's Duet.
Right.
And it turned out you'd load Duet up, right? And it wasn't that great. That's why you got this on this compilation. Duet was actually Commando 2. Elite's own version. And they didn't just do this once. Right. So what they were doing is, which is kind of interesting, was you were getting a compilation of maybe 5 games that had been released, say, a couple of years before. And they would put on a less popular unreleased title as well. So it made, you know, when you go on about extra content, it's an early example of extra content. In fact, Battleships, which is fantastic on our version, including the Amiga, play it if you haven't. It's still great. Get your dad to play it. We should get you to play Battleships. Battleships was never released by itself on like a full price pack. It was deemed too much of a budget game. Right. So there was only 2 ways to own it, and that was either on a compilation pack or the budget Encore, which is what they remember 1942 on Encore. Their Encore label, so you could get that separately, but on Encore for $2.99. But again, initially that game would only come out, so it's a very early form of extra content, bonus content, and having a free game. And like I say, Duet was actually... It was like Gauntlet with Commando sprites, which is interesting for the time, you know. Yeah. But just to put a bit of a spin on what we're talking about right here.
I think back to your point, really, Mark, is that I like them. I like that to have them, but also we touched earlier on Xbox and PlayStation. You play a subscription.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of Xbox games on there, and there are a lot of 360 games on there. And that back catalogue already exists.
It does.
But then that goes really back to someone like me that wants to buy it still.
Yes.
And that's what retro is to me. I want to buy it.
Yeah, you want to be able to hold it and put it in your Xbox, for example, you know. Yeah. So, I'm a bit of an advocate for emulation. However, I do have a nice, decent-sized collection of 360 and PS3 stuff, which I do kind of collect for, because, as we'll get into shortly, I think it's a good way into collecting.
Well,
I had a huge collection at one point,
high.
which Glenn sold all of his stuff for. He didn't steal it.
But it was a good, fairly cheap way into this hobby, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, like I said, I know I said there's a very start of the podcast, but stuff like the mid-noughties FIFAs and stuff like that are probably never going to really be worth anything. But like the early Call of Duty's stuff like that.
Just because Modern Warfare 1, 2 and 3 are fantastic games. Not the new ones, don't like them so much, but the old ones, great.
So, but I wonder if the value, I mean, obviously these have been out nearly 20 years, as I said earlier. So, like, just quickly, like, you'd look at a NES game now, a NES game from 1980. Well, we'll take Double Dragon 2, one of our favourite NES beat-em-ups.
You're getting into 0.7 now.
I know, what's about to say. But again, a game like that now, if that was brand new and sealed, I know you are definitely paying 3 figures for that.
Yeah.
Even if it's got a little nick on the box underneath the shoot wrap, you're still paying 3 figures for that. Might be low end, but you are. I mean, I wonder if there'll come a time when Call of Duty 3, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1 will be worth, like 3 figures.
It depends on the amount that was released.
I think
me and my daughter used to play Skylanders. That was released on Xbox One.
Yeah.
But it's so limited.
Didn't that come with the figures as well, though?
Yeah.
Wii U, full box set.
The Wii U, you often find a lot of them. I think because the kids like the Skylanders, and the Wii U is.
So it was. Imagine it's the last one they released, but that on the system is really expensive. You buy it on 360, it's not. So, and it's the same game pretty much, but it's about availability at the time, you know. And so when you say about Call of Duty, I'm not sure because it was so wide.
They're making millions of copies as opposed to hundreds of thousands, maybe, which were done, back 10 years prior, 20 years prior, maybe. I wonder.
You'd always find that, say, Star Fox 2, right? It's not, it was at the end, anything that was at the end of the console's life
had a limited release.
It has a much more limited release because you've already bought your PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
And therefore...
I thought Star Fox 2 did that
it didn't.
actually get a very small... I know it was an unreleased prototype, but I know later on there was a special release where people actually... I think they've got a sort of official...
You're setting me up for a segue with our next point.
Right. I'll leave it for now. I'll let you carry on.
So, as I'm going to accept that segue, and I'm going to appreciate that, and I'm going to go straight to you, Jamie, with this one, because I know you've got one. SNES Classic.
Yeah, so we've all debated on whether what you call retro and how you'd like to play it. I know you prefer emulation. I've got a SNES Mini, if you like.
Is it SNES Mini or SNES Classic? Or
I think it might be Classic.
I can't remember.
I've got that, and hands up, I did hack mine, so I can now put other games on it. But it's a lovely piece of kit, and that does have Star Fox 2.
And yes, I need to borrow it if you start to play Star Fox.
So that's an official release, as well.
Yeah, it's an official
release of Star Fox 2.
So what I'm getting at here is, over what now? When did the NES Mini come out? Probably 4 years?
4 years, maybe.
Yeah, and then we had the Genesis Mini, we've had the SNES Mini, we've got TurboGrafx Minis, we've got
you've got
Minis for everything. Commodore 64s, Amiga's the lot, right? Well, not Amiga yet.
For me personally, right, I'm generally all for it because, again, for several reasons, it means that, like, young people who want to get into it, young people like us, but much younger, again, to be honest, who want to get into this hobby can easily buy these. They're generally not very expensive. I mean, not for the amount of content you get with them, I would say. No. They look nice as well on the shelf, so they can get this and start playing these older games that maybe their fathers, or even in some cases their grandfathers or grandparents, grandmothers maybe, would have played these games, so they're getting these modern retro consoles. But I think as well that there is like a segment out there who probably would just like I've heard of some really shitty Mega Drive sort of versions, Mega Drive.
And it has been. I mean, Blaze were responsible for some.
I believe that's right. Is that where the emulation was all off and everything?
Yeah, especially the sound and stuff.
Again, I don't hate it completely because if you never played the game, let's say Sonic, there's loads of bad versions of Sonic on these consoles. If you hadn't played it back in the day and you're now like 15, 20 or whatever, and you just want to play it, then it's still a way in, and that shitty console might make you a fan, and you start buying old stuff, or you start buying new modern retro consoles. So, like I say, not completely against it, but it's sad that there'll be always people out there who just want to exploit the hobby, So
I think if you look now, you buy a Nintendo Switch, and you have access to their back catalogue. And the main reason I like a mini console is the controller is what I played with as a kid. I haven't got some rubbish thing that doesn't feel like it was Nintendo or Sega, and it's got those 3 buttons where it feels right. It's actually is made by the company authentically. I mean, they could have made that Bluetooth, but they didn't. They left the cable on it.
I'm sorry, but I've got to come back in here with something. As I was saying before, developers, pretty much celebrating their back catalogues, but I'm very frustrated with Nintendo.
Right.
They did a fantastic job on the Wii and the Wii U, the Virtual Console, and then they've stripped it all away and made you pay for online to be able to play the back catalogue of stuff.
Isn't it different for the different?
It in dribs and drabs? It's pathetic.
Isn't people having to pay for the content again when they get a new Switch?
No, so they're not selling you it anymore. But they did that, mind, on the Wii and Wii U.
That's right. I watched the article recently.
But now you've got to pay for Nintendo Switch Online to get access to any back catalogue stuff, which I think is horrendous. It's they should have done what they did with the Wii and the Wii U and had a Virtual Console.
So I agree with that, but you'd be paying for the game, but you would keep it. But then, do you pay for Xbox Ultimate anyway? So what's the difference?
Well, they could have had it for, they could have given you something else. Like a few free games a month or something like PlayStation and Microsoft.
That's free.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a great point.
But then give you the access to all the back catalogue stuff and let you pay a couple of £1 a game,
Well, I've got the Switch 2, and they've obviously got the GameCube on it.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, I don't think it's that great.
It's not.
Because the emulation is not brilliant, and it's not like playing Mario All-Stars.
The reason being is because you get it free.
There is exactly.
If you had to buy this product, it would have been good.
There is good GameCube emulation out there, though, now, isn't it? Because isn't that right?
Dolphin and stuff like that.
That's it. That's it. I heard this idea. Yeah, the Dolphin emulator, right? So, there's no excuse. There's no excuse.
Sorry, but yeah, I just had to get out there because I am genuinely annoyed about Nintendo and the way they've done it this and last generation. Back to retro game consoles, right? There's one sitting right over there, for example. So it's not just the consoles, but the biggest thing for me that was the nicest surprise in the last few years has been the rise of arcade machines.
Definitely, yeah.
For example, and the 3/4 arcades and stuff.
I do know, again, because I know I didn't want to be the glass half full guy. I'm not, so it's always. Again, I think they're generally fantastic. That they're there. I don't think they're perfect, and that's okay. Don't need to be perfect. But the fact that these are available, and they're readily available because of the size of them and that.
Yeah.
So overall, I think it's fantastic. I mean, you have a little Pac-Man one up there in the corner. And
I love them.
The choice there, and the fact that, again, you've got... Look, I'm somebody personally who's very interested in arcades and arcade machines, as in contemporary stuff there.
Amazing. I mean, look at this, Glenn.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I'm sorry, I know people have probably seen these all before. But
and there's more all right.
Have you got the tabletop ones, though?
No.
The cocktail tables. Do you remember them in a pub?
Cool as well.
Look at this. You've got like a Mortal Kombat section. Loads of videos. Marvel vs. Capcom.
Oh, classic.
But and the thing is, generally speaking, they're fairly affordable. I mean, and obviously you can put other stuff.
Terminator 2 deluxe
with the guns.
In fact, you can get a light gun as well, though.
Guns,
and what's missing? Yeah, Ridge Racer's missing from here. We've got Fast and Furious now instead.
Didn't was it talked about? It was talked about, but not it came out.
It was talked about,
so not it just got cancelled.
But I also there's something else as well. So there's another side of this, right? There's machines that are now being made to play retro games. And Jamie, again, your analog pocket, for example, that you got there, beautiful machine, right? It wasn't designed originally to play ROMs, so it was all about legitimately buying your cartridges and chucking them in there. I know you can play ROMs on it now, but have you ever heard of a Polymega?
I believe so, but yeah, you carry on with that.
I'm just going to show this on the screen now. So, right.
Oh, no.
So the Polymega, okay, is a console that came back out. It was about 4 years ago now.
That's nice.
And it's just a PC in a box, right? But what you were allowed to do was put your original game into it and then rip it to the console. So for me, someone who doesn't really care too much about collecting...
Disc-based though.
Disc-based.
CD-based.
So it starts off disc-based, right?
Well, that's it, CD, not me.
What you've got is modules, okay? And then with the modules, you plug in different games.
That's nice.
Is that the PC Engine version?
That's the PC Engine.
It's a car, that's a huge car.
Do you know what I like about something like that? Is the fact that I've got a large collection of games. The truth is, some of them will not work on my TV.
Yeah. Yes.
I need
to discuss this.
Yeah. And suddenly I can do that. I can put my games on it, and it's HDMI, and it will run. You have to pay the money for it.
The thing is, if you've got a game like Glenn, for example, right? You've got your game. It's not sealed, so you put it in, rip it to the console, put it back, wrap it up, and there it is forever, because you can play it still. And look, NES.
See, I've deliberately had to keep. I've had to keep
Mega Drive.
Old TV. I've got a telly I got from 1994, the old Scott telly, and I keep that to test the old consoles when I go to sell them, and I need that there instead of.
So I would say,
not run properly on modern stuff.
ROMs are great, right? And we probably all use them. This is the most legal way to play your collection,
because you're literally playing your collection. And this, from what I know, I might be wrong. That. Right now, you can't upload ROMs to it. That's what I understand, everyone. However, you have to have the original media.
I like it.
And rip it to the computer, to the console.
So I know that you spoke about my pocket, my Android Pocket,
analog pocket,
analog pocket. And they also, I just saw on the screen, they've got the they're bringing out one that goes for
N64.
Yes, but it keeps being delayed.
They keep getting delayed. It's a shame.
The reason I bought that was I knew it was quality to play. And I have a lot of Game Boy games. I still love Game Boy. It went back to your podcast, sitting in your granddad's shed, right? That's where we were brought up playing Super Mario. You know, you two are brothers. You play. You know, you've always played computer games together, which is why I like the podcast. It's why I'm happy to be part of it. Is there's passion for that because it's bred over time.
Yeah,
and it's so I bought that because I knew that when I put my game in, I didn't have to have a stupid light that plugged in the side or play it in the bathroom.
Yeah.
I think anyone that's played an old Game Boy will understand that point.
By the time you had the magnifier on that,
it's part of the car, isn't it? You're not going to fit it in your pocket, are you? And you wouldn't have fit in the pocket before. Like,
it's almost
as dungarees or something.
32X and everything on top of that. You know, and
it's called the Tower of Power. If you have you've got your Mega CD one, because it's obviously about that big. It's bigger than a Xbox OG.
Do you know what I did? It was one of your podcasts, and you never mentioned it, and you were talking about Master System games when you were doing your top 10, right? And never mentioned the fact that you could buy an add-on for your Game Gear.
Right, okay,
and it would play Master System games.
It had a 3-inch
It was massive.
I was obsessed with a Game Gear game, right? And it's common as muck, you can get it anyway, but I loved it. Obviously,
it's not like the box, is it?
I've got a couple of
Woody Pop.
Funny enough,
like Glenn's Rise of the Robots collection.
We'll do a podcast on one day.
No, by yourself, right?
Funny enough, right? It's Golden Axe based. Would you believe it? No, it's on the Master System.
Golden Axe.
That's Axe Battler, the Legend of Golden Axe. So you had Golden Axe Warrior in the Master System, which is a Zelda 1 rip-off.
Yeah, good game.
Good is good, Then you have, and it's rare and expensive. And you had Axe Battler on the Game Gear, which is a sort of Zelda 2 rip-off. And I played it, I bought it and played the whole thing. And I was like, I would have loved to have seen this running though on the telly though instead.
Battery life is awful though, wouldn't it?
Your analog pocket, you can buy the adapters, can't you, for the other? So
you can buy a Game Gear adapter for the analog.
Yeah, so a bit like the Polymega, in where you can buy the modules. You can buy the adapters for that.
I didn't know about that, and I really like.
Oh, mate, I want one. I really want one.
I like that.
I'm going to come straight round to yours, bought all your games.
I did want to touch on something back though when we were talking about arcade games.
Quickly.
And I'm bringing it. Sorry, doing a little bit.
No, still on consoles and whatnot.
You mentioned the cabinets, and like I say, I've always been interested in like arcade cabinets and PCBs, and I own very few now. I own more at one point, but it's expensive and takes up a lot of room. It's getting harder and harder to get like actual original cabinets now, and even getting. I mean, I've got to the point now where I know the names of the cabinets themselves, and if you're not, I'm not in the arcade industry, I never have been, and I was never bothered 10 years ago about that. I just wanted the game out of the cabinet because I've gotten older and maybe in time want an original cabinet, which are obviously still a bit bigger than the one-ups. getting any which are in even halfway decent condition now is near impossible for a reasonable price. I mean, you'll probably pay about at least 200 just for a one that's got
something.
Oh no, Christ, no, you pay way more. I mean, just for like what they would call a Centauri or a Goliath and that, you know.
So you just mean
electric coin stuff and that.
Just mean
just the empty cabinet with no games in and no artwork or nothing, and 10 fag burns on it and a couple of dints in the side where some pisshead kicked it in. Excuse me. And even them are getting to the point where the only real way forward now for anybody, if you want to enjoy arcade, you don't have a lot of money, it's just the one-up cabs. So it's quite sad, really. But at the end of the day, quickly, obviously you've got to remember, like, these things were built just for commercial reasons. They weren't built to be kept. They weren't built to be collected. You know, once if the arcade operator or owner couldn't substitute a dying game that nobody wanted with a new game. Say it was a dedicated cabinet, he just couldn't, or just the cabinet was in rough condition. It went in the skip and got chopped up, and, like, put in the skip. You know, so just getting the cabinets themselves is getting so much harder.
In fairness, mate, these arcade one-up cabinets aren't built to last. They're built at the cheapest MDF.
I know they are.
Fall apart pretty quickly.
The graphics are not nice on it.
They don't.
It's just a bog standard monitor, mate. So
to be fair, of course, they're not built to last. But at the end of the day, they're not built to be kicked in and burnt either. So generally speaking, it'll sit in the corner, and unless you literally, go to town on it, that thing's going nowhere.
I don't have one of those, but like I said before, I would like one of the cocktail table ones, where you have controllers each end, so you can buy those, and I really like them.
The original cocktails,
even the one-up style ones are not too bad.
Yeah, they have they've got their one now.
They're just again a bit flimsy and cheap. But you'd be better off getting a classic original and
I prefer that. Just for, do you know what it is? It's for space as well. I mean, when you've got, I do see where you're coming from, mine completely, but you've got something that's taken up a much bigger footprint for less
coffee table.
Hey, and if I take my
definitely
if I take my girlfriend around, she just thinks it's a table.
Maybe
so I don't look like a nerd.
Put a couple on the top of the table.
Which might like it.
Before we move on to the next bit of this podcast, guys, there's one more thing I want to show you on the screen right now. This is, I believe it's called the G-Aim. You might remember the G-Con.
Told me about this the other day.
So they're bringing back light gun games.
Love that.
And it obviously works on your LCD.
This sounds very great, but again, Mark, this actually goes into something we talked about just a little while back as well. This is actually a really great niche because we spoke years ago, really, about you went through a phase where you wanted to, I think you're still in it, really, you want to be able to play like classic sort of Dreamcast light gun games like House of the Dead and the Virtual Cop series. And especially you can't do that. Yeah, you can't do that on modern TVs at all. And getting a 50-inch CRT now is just, it's not.
What you've just said is not strictly true. You can, but you need to use a Cinder light gun or a gun for IR, but it's not
be the original hard.
It's not. People who wouldn't be in the know don't know how to do it.
No, but I mean, if you just wanted to buy a Dreamcast and you go, I'll buy the Dreamcast guns there. But some people wouldn't know that.
So I'm certainly no expert, by the way, so, and this will prove it with the story I'm about to tell. You guys have been around my house and I have a Super Scope.
Yeah, it won't work.
I bought it from eBay and I messaged the guy and said, this was a long time ago, mind you, so probably 20 years ago, and said, it doesn't work. Well, it wouldn't work, so I had a flat screen telly.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't know that. But it might be interesting if you're starting to collect retro games. Sometimes you have to look these things up.
Definitely, absolutely.
The best way right now, and again, advocate for emulation here, the best way to play the likes of your Dreamcast games, arcade light shooters, things like that, is via emulation using either a Wiimote, which can be done cheaply.
Good point.
Or using something like a gun for IR or a project.
Imagine, Mark, imagine if that was your way into retro gaming, though. Like what you say, that was your first experience, that you'd literally I want to be able to get a light gun game and an old console, and it just doesn't work. And you're like, wait, I've lost interest in life now.
You probably would, because you've been trying ages to get it to work. Not knowing that
work out the box.
The LCD doesn't support like the refresh and the white blitter and everything.
That looks great though.
It's literally a plug and play solution. The guns have a camera in them. So like a pretty decent.
And this is all official clearly as well. So
it's
still good.
It's even got the reload button that you would have in an arcade on your feet.
It's the duck, isn't it, for the pedal?
Yeah.
So I'm actually genuinely wet for this. All I can hope is that you can hack it and put whatever games on you want.
Well, if you think about it now, you just put like Alien. There's like so many. Yeah, I would say arcade games, shooter arcade games, are still very popular at the moment.
I still love them, mate.
Even today.
Yeah. But again, though, and we're not going to touch too quickly on this because I know this is a topic for another day at some point. But obviously the arcades themselves went through a phase where it was all about modular stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It moved away from stand-up cabinets and experiences, more like a ride than a game. And that started for me with stuff as early as, I'm going to say Outrun, but pole position. And any sit-down,
for me.
Yeah, but you definitely got to see any of those Sega 3D scale.
Yeah.
I was so impressed with Thunderblade, and the fact the cab would move, and only a couple of years later you got the 360 system came out, which are rare as duck's teeth and expensive as hell, with G-Lock and that, there's a couple of them still exist.
That's why I don't think arcades are dead, because there will always be
the more alive now than ever
play.
I think I would say they're more alive now than they've ever been since back in the day.
Yeah, things like that Tomb Raider 4-player game, there's like those sniper games and stuff. They're even throwing VR element games in there now.
Mario Kart,
but Arcade GP and all that.
There was a game, I will not know what it is, and it's pretty pointless mentioning it, so you can cut it if you like. But there was one, and you played it, and it was like 3D, and it popped up.
Time Traveler?
Was it?
Well, there's two games. Was it Cowboy?
No, so this wasn't a shooting game. This was a joystick game, but it looked like it was in a dome.
Did you play as a cat?
I thought it was a wizard.
There's a fighting one, Holocene.
Holocene was two. It just sounds like it was the cabinet white, like a sort of short white cabinet.
It was. I think
it's Holocene. I think you're probably talking about Time Traveller though,
right?
Because Holocene was a fighting game, but that was a kit and very rare. Nobody knew because it was shit as well. But Time Traveller, I remember seeing that and blown away by it because it's like, it's real, it's all real. But he tried to touch him.
And it's not. Yeah,
but I'm pretty sure you talked about Time Traveller there. Sega, classic.
That's completely out of subject. So we'll get back on.
It's a classic cabinet. But again, cabinets that they had a charm at the time because people didn't know how it worked. And really, it's just like it's a mirror and there's no background, so it's easy. But in 1990, I think it might have been, could be 91, 89. But at that time, really impressive and unusual cabinet, to have.
I think we need to start trying to think about how we're going to wrap this episode up, guys.
Well, there is one we I'd like to quickly maybe wrap up. And it was just a quick mention of the original retro consoles. I mean, we did sort of start with that a little bit.
Yeah.
But,
well, we're going to our favourites.
Yeah, we're going to our favourites. But I'm like, I just want to say there's still something about playing these games on the original hardware.
So for me, it's when you talk about original retro game like consoles and computers, it's having it there. Sometimes having it there, looking at it, touching it, is more than the games.
And you mentioned something
hardware, you
mentioned something great about having the controllers that's actually plugged in. See, here's a great example. If I want a Super Nintendo controller now, I'll go on eBay UK, so I'm thousands all over. And I say, Super Nintendo controller, right? SNES controller. And I'll get maybe 5,000 things come up. And about 90% of that will be USB controllers that are obviously Super Nintendo. Or even official stuff, but stuff that I'm like, well, no, I just want a Super Nintendo controller to plug into my Super Nintendo. Of course, they're getting older and rarer and some are busted now, but there's still plenty out there. So it's like, well, I want to be able to still play stuff. I do, like I said, I know we've already discussed this, I do like the idea of retro modern consoles, PlayStation Minis, Mega Drive mini consoles and SNES and whatever. But just where possible, it's getting harder and harder. Having the original console, especially cartridge-based, I think like Super Nintendo, Mega Drive, N64, NES. I think a lot of them, because I don't have moving parts, are still alive. But some of the obscure stuff, mate, is
two consoles for me above all that I prefer to have the originals, and that is the N64 because of its joypad,
which again is a great.
The GameCube because of its joypad.
You can get the joypad for the both, which I've got from online. But anyway, that's still a subject. So I know we're kind of wrapping up.
But some of these are quite cheap. I mean, a Mega Drive, I'll also take a Mega Drive as being second best favourite console after PS1. In fact, actually, PS1 as well. Both those consoles, the Mega Drive and the PS1, two different eras from two different opposing companies, right?
Yeah.
All right, PS1s are getting harder to get because of it's a mechanism still, it's a CD-based console, obviously. But generally speaking, they're not that rare. And I looked at the price a while ago, right, of the PlayStation Mini specifically.
Yeah.
And it was more expensive than a fully working used PS1.
Yeah. I mean, it's still a relatively new thing, and you can put everything on it. You put SNES and NES and everything.
And obviously the Mega Drive's advantages is they don't. I've actually touched wood, never had a Mega Drive break on me.
No, I don't think
I
so.
think, to be honest with you, if you think about how old some of the stuff is we're talking about, they still hold up well. The electronics have not gone.
Jimmy, the older consoles were bulletproof, mate. Apart from it, I mean, even the NES, right? The NES is the cartridge loader issue. But if you switch out the pins for new pins, it's brand new again.
I'm talking fillet and bollocks here because I'm on a pint now. But I think it's almost comparable to the American car industry. Those consoles were made before planned obsolescence.
Yes.
So when you've got like anything from before the PS1, definitely the really older stuff, they didn't really think, well, maybe in a few months, almost like what you've got with PC in the last 30 years or so now.
Yeah.
Where everything's like made phones, mobile phones, everything, where everything's made to break, so you get the next one. So this stuff, especially as I said, especially cartridge-based stuff, is lasting forever. So if ever anyone listening wanted to get into retro gaming and you didn't want to start your collection with some of the semi-modern, as I say, almost retro consoles like PS3 and
let's not go for the Rings of Death, eh?
The
Red Rings of Death.
I remember that being the first thing people would see.
Just make sure you get a Jasper or one of the black ones. But
if you did want to start a collection and you didn't want to start with those, like I say, cusp retro consoles, PS3, Wii, 360, then you cannot harm with. You'll get a Mega Drive with, say, Sonic 1, Altered Beast. Actually, Altered Beast is quite expensive now. You'll get a Mega Drive with Sonic 1 and probably Mega Games 1 or.
Streets of Rage I saw the other day.
No. Even Streets of Rage cartridge has gone for 10 quid now. But I reckon you'd get.
It's not a lot though for what you get.
It's not
cheap
for the quality.
For a fantastic game.
I'm thinking about a couple of really cheap cartridges. Sonic 1, less than a fiver.
World Cup Italia 90.
World Cup Italia, that was the one. World Cup Italia 90, maybe even hang on to some degree. And you pay those 3 games with one controller Mega Drive, you pay less than 50 quid.
Yeah, you would. I think they're
35.
So I think
that's postage included. If
I can finish from my point of view on the whole retro gaming thing is, if you're going to do it, you can buy with confidence, is my experience, because as you guys have both said, the stuff's bulletproof. And, if you want to, reshell the Game Boy.
Yeah.
Right? It's a subject we haven't touched on, but the electronics are really not that hard to do. You can reshell your computers, but the hardware itself, though, is still great. So if you're going to spend £50, as you said, Glenn, on a computer and some, I won't guarantee it, but I would tell you that when you boot that up, that'll work and it will take you back to where you were before. And that's what I feel.
Speaking of reshell, I was on I think it was Facebook, I was flipping through the other day, and I seen somebody had reshelled an Amiga 1200 with a black shell.
Nice.
And it looked absolutely fucking tremendous. So if you're out there, listen to this. Congratulations.
I would love to see
the clear one.
Beautiful.
I've seen one for the SNES and it's clear. And it's it's beautiful.
Well, speaking about SNES so quickly before we do wrap up, I find SNESs are still quite expensive. I can sell a SNES unit. Bear in mind, I'm a collector as well, so I'm not just someone who just scalps and sells a SNES unit with no controllers and just an aerial lead, so no power box, power brick. I sell that for about 60 quid.
Aye.
No games, So again, obviously from an entry level, if you just wanted to get into some sort of early console,
Mega Drive,
definitely way to go.
Yeah,
for me personally,
I still say if you're going to get into it, you probably want to get in it at the last disc. Well, sorry, the first disc, either PlayStation or PS2.
They're both like one side of each. Basically, like you say, either. I think I've talked too much. Either Mega Drive stuff because it's
never.
Cheap enough, would you believe?
We do that before Glenn dies.
I'll come back for the next one. Other as a zombie, probably. Or the 360 stuff or PS2, maybe to some degree, Xbox
Go
OG.
into cash converters.
Yeah.
Don't buy a system. Go into cash converters and look at how much the games are for Xbox 360, PlayStation.
Games.
And then look at what you want. If they're a couple of quid each, and then buy a system afterwards.
Yeah.
Because you can see how much the games are, and you'll be great. If you're buying even DS, some games are expensive. They're not expensive. They've held their price.
I think a lot of Nintendo again, apart from the Wii U, because right now the Wii, if you go in CEX, if you go in there, Wii U games are like £8 each and that for like Mario Kart 8 and stuff. I'm tempted to mop them all up now and put them in a box for later. But that's the only one. But every other generation, even Wii games now are starting to climb in price a little bit.
Especially if you buy like Paper Mario and stuff like that.
I think conditional.
I love me Wii stuff. I love me Wii U. Both hacked. Fantastic consoles. I'm even on the Nintendo network on the Wii U. Amazing.
I was surprised by the Wii U. I bought it off a friend. I don't know, massively got off subject here, but I bought it off a friend. I'm a Zelda fan massively, and I bought the 2 Zelda games for that. And I could play it in handheld, and it's quite an underrated system.
Yeah, the problem is the gamepad gets a bit crap with signal and the battery and stuff, but you can get that fixed, you know. But anything else? Because I think we should wrap it up here before Glenn
starts it. We've not done too bad today. Like, I think there'll be plenty to talk about. Like I say, maybe grab a cheap 360, and if you do end up opening the drive and you find FIFA 2007 there, probably don't complain too much, you know. Just play it and be happy.
06 is better with the plastic doll faces. We'll vote the World Cup, and that was amazing. But yeah, I think we'll tidy it up and finish it there, guys.
Can I just say thanks very much for you guys to invite me on the show. I've enjoyed it massively.
Pleasure, mate. Hopefully many more.
In case I didn't make it clear at the start, Jamie is a permanent host on the podcast here, so expect to see more of Jamie as well as us ugly bastards here. But we'll be back again. We're going to do this hopefully round about monthly. Leave us a review on Spotify or any other channel you listen to this on. We appreciate you joining us as always.
We have got a few ideas on for the next few. Something
I'm very excited about as well.
Yeah.
We're generating more as we go. Don't hesitate. If you've got any ideas you'd like us to talk about, drop us a message or review, or get in touch via the email on the channel, and we'll talk more about that and possibly put something together. But thanks everyone for joining us. Take care. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, just a quick message to say thank you for tuning into the show. If you are watching on YouTube, then please give us a like, subscribe to the show, drop us a comment, let us know how we did. If you are listening or watching on one of the podcast platforms, please leave us a review. It really helps with the metrics. Once again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in about 4 weeks' time for the next episode. Bye for now.